Hi, everyone. I'm Zhou. Today we're going to talk a little bit about eval and testing. But before that, I wanted to show you a little bit about some of the general AI applications that people have been building today. So I'm more in the algorithm side. So I'm a researcher, a professor at Columbia. Particularly, we work on various different algorithms for AI applications like chatbots or agents and different stuff. Today, I would say that if you look at the current agent ecosystem, there are people like OpenAI building foundation models, and now agents are getting more and more popular. So you also need foundation models where particularly tailored for agents, because you don't want it to just predict the next token. You actually want it to predict the next action. So a lot of my research is more focused on like reinforcement learning, model verifications, in order to improve agentic foundation models. But my company, ArcLex, is specifically on the middle layer of agent orchestration layer or dev tools to support researchers or developers to be able to build prototypes faster and also be able to transition from the prototype to be a actual deployed agent systems that is scalable to serve millions of people. So we are very also interested in terms of how to help various different vertical AI agents to be able to deploy and iterate faster. So I wanted to show an example of agents that we supported for Walmart AI. So Walmart, is a retailer, one of the biggest retailer. They're also very focused on e-commerce right now. So this Sparky is a chatbot that they deployed with their application. So if you open up your Walmart application, so Sparky is right front in the center, this like a round yellow thing. So this is, you can consider them as one of the, we call pre-sales agent for shopping. So originally when we worked with them, it's first like, oh, we can actually put it into one of the description of the product. It doesn't just do like frequent question answering, but actually can do these kind of scenario-based search. So for example, I'm a college student, I'm looking for a vacuum cleaner. So this is all generative AI-based. And then we connect to the reviews as well. So when you're answering the question, the agent is not only drawing on the product catalog, but also connecting to structured informations, such as these kind of reviews, plus also the catalog. We can also do recommendations, recommending product within the specific criteria that we use natural language to describe. And then we also do contextual understanding. I want a cordless one, right? So if you look at AI agent system, it's a very complex process. It has to connect to different databases, connect to different tools. Sometimes you make these kind of database into an API tool or MCP tools and everything, right? So it's a very complex system. And very important parts of it is it's interactive. Right? The interactive part is so important that you have to put all the history into a concatenated way. So like all your conversational history is in a huge prompt together that feeds to your next active interaction turns. So that the entire process makes the building of an agent system much more complex than you imagined. So it's not as simple as, prompt management. It's actually optimization to think about what to leave in the context, what not to leave in the context, and so on. So process is sort of less standardized these days for building these interactive AI agents. And then let's take another look. So we also built this together with one of the banks. So it's not Chase. We don't work with Chase specifically. We work with another financial institute due to privacy, so we couldn't really talk. But here is an example we built in terms of voice agents. So it's not only chatbots, there is also voice-based agents.
From iChase. How can I help you today?
Hi, I'm interested in getting a credit card and one that fits my lifestyle.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help. Could you share what types of things you usually spend on or any features you're looking for?
So I order a lot of food delivery, especially through Uber Eats. I shop online often, usually Amazon, and I occasionally book travel. I want something flexible when it comes to redeeming rewards.
Thanks for sharing. Based on that, I'd recommend the Emerald Preferred Card. It's a great match for your habits. You'll earn 3 times points on Uber Eats and DoorDash, 5 times points on travel booked through iChase Travel, $50 annual hotel credit, free year of DashPass, 60,000 point welcome bonus worth up to $750 when used for travel.
Sounds good. How do I redeem the welcome points?
Your points are fully flexible. You can redeem them for travel, cashback, statement credits, Amazon purchases, and more. Would you like to apply?
Yeah. Could you help me with the application?
Of course. I've just sent you a secure link via SMS. Follow the steps, and I'll be here if you need help.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Awesome. You should hear back in 3 to 7 business days. Enjoy your new perks. Hi, Alex. Just reaching out to let you know your Emerald Preferred card has been approved. Congratulations.
This is the second conversation.
Thanks.
After 3 days.
We talked about a few benefits earlier, but I forgot the details on the travel rewards. Could you remind me how that works again?
Absolutely. You'll earn 5 times points on any travel booked through iChase Travel. Plus, you'll get a $50 hotel credit each year.
Got it. What's the annual fee again?
It's $95, but most customers easily cover that with the welcome bonus worth $750. The rewards are also flexible. You can redeem points for cash, gift cards, Amazon, or travel.
Whoa,
This
amazing.
is more about
Okay.
you're answering the
Can I
question,
activate
but
the
also
card now?
providing supports for persuasion.
Sure.
So
I've just sent you
one of
a
the things that
secure
we
activation
discover is like sometimes you don't need just one call, you need a multiple calls. You need to have histories that are connected between sessions. You have these complex questions and complex policies that you want to deploy for your entire agents. Right? Applications, so many of them can be constructed for various different domains in finance or in these kind of e-commerce space. But one of the biggest problems is why is not everybody is using these agents, right? Why is only Walmart or Amazon having these pre-sales agents that are helpful? What about the rest of the e-commerce platform? What about the banks, right? So what you see is very interesting, but none of you probably have used it before because there is a lot of complaints. We're still very delayed, right? You still get the mail from your mailbox about upgrade your credit cards. So why is it these agents cannot really deploy and everybody is using it? It's because 90% of these customer-facing agents are actually stuck in POC. There's no best practice from that demo to an actual deployed system. Building demo is easy, and building a scalable application takes at least 50 times more effort. So what is sort of in between? How do we get to the demo to the deployed application? And the biggest bottleneck here is there's no standardized testing and evaluation for these interactive, real-time agents. So if you think about traditional software, people have definitely, I'm a professor, you got taught about software engineering, right? There is a standard way you can do quality assurance testing for these softwares. But agents are very different. They're large language model driven, so they're non-deterministic. So it might work today, but might not work tomorrow. Why is the case? It's because your APIs actually change. And your answers, it doesn't really rely on one LLM cost. It's multiple LLM costs chained together. One thing changed, everything else would change. And it's also very interactive, right? So here we're talking about these agents are not single turn interactions. They're multiple turns. If your answer changes, your agent's answer is going to change. And the next user's answer is going to change again. So this is like a coordinated dance. If one side changes, the other side will change as well. So you can't just rely on the traditional single turn static evaluation benchmark. So if you created this benchmark, you can't rely on it over and over again to test your system. Because your system changes, your user would have more advanced questions for you. And then you don't have that in your testing database. So static benchmark doesn't work anymore. And more importantly, when we talked about like before in the two applications, right? We have databases connected. We have different toolings like calling the cell phone messaging app, right? All these tool uses are not as simple as it is to evaluate or to do testing. You would have to do various like simulated environments or like sort of redundancies in order to test. For example, you're returning an item from Walmart. If you just say, if the system says, yes, that's a return, do you actually know it's returned or not? Did the database actually change or not? Right? You can't just rely on these very superficial test benchmarks in order to test how well your system works. You actually need a very systematic simulated environment and simulated user to make it work. So many people relied on human testing, which is obviously very low coverage, right? So it's more about developer thinking, oh, what my user is going to ask me today. Or it's the business operators like, oh, these are the usual things I imagine people would ask. But people, your users, are always going to surprise you. And then it's very slow in terms of turnout. We have heard multiple horror stories that you engage a vendor and ask them, hey, these are the data I wanted to create for testing my agents. And then 2 weeks later, nothing is usable. The varied in terms of the quality of the instruction might not be clear. It might be the engaged vendor didn't do a good job in terms of quality assurance testing, in terms of how they recruited their end users, right? A lot of this basically made the process very long, very costly, and very difficult to deploy your system. So one of the things that we came up in our class is we can actually create fake users, what we call synthetic users, to actually simulate how your end users would interact with your agent. And we also simulate the databases and environment at the same time. So you have a sandbox to test your interactive customer-facing agents. And if you think about it, if you're a machine learning scientist or a machine learning engineer, what we provide with you is basically your synthetic data, right? The user generates the data. You can use the data for testing, for scalable testing. You can also use the data to do further annotations to connect your evaluation process. So these type of ways that because it's synthetic, you can scalably deploy multiple of these synthetic users in parallel together to generate more trajectories to cover different scenarios, different language styles, and so on. And then it's very easy because it's synthetic. You can call up the digital human at any time. And if you don't like it, you can change the parameters and try it again. You can also integrate it to your unit tests, regression tests, CI/CD pipelines as well. So many things that, one of the things people actually made errors a lot is about, oh, if I test it today, it's going to actually be the same tomorrow. So we have worked with multiple of these enterprises, and they figured out. People would actually come back and saying, actually, I tested yesterday, but today it doesn't work. Because the context of AI agents changes all the time. Because sometimes they're calling the web search agent API. That API is different every day. Of course, so the regression test is very, very important for anybody who wants to deploy any interactive AI agents that is calling different APIs. So our usual suggestions is, if it's a very complex system, you want it to do a regression test every night. So here is an example of how you can actually use it. So let me see. So it's a simple CRI tool. We also have GUI tools as well. So you basically define what kind of persona of potential users you would interact. So based on your application, based on your domain, so we worked a lot with various different companies in banks or in e-commerce. So we know what kind of general use cases people would use. And then based on these use cases, what are the parameters of human beings we would actually incorporate in terms of the testers? For example, e-commerce really cares about, for example, where you live, how many people you have in your household. That changes your personal behaviors in terms of purchase and item discovery. Well, for like bankings, it's more about compliance. Did the same woman, or if it's a same attributes, if it's a man, you get actually different. You get exactly the same answer for example, quotes for insurance and things like that. So you can actually, based on, also we have some proprietary data before that you can generate these kind of synthetic humans that goes on like your real users to interact with your agent that deployed in your dev spaces. And then for each individual utterance, we could do a evaluation. So depending on your use case, we would have different recommendations for your evaluation process. So for example, in e-commerce, it's really focused on helpfulness of the answer, the correctness of the answer. While for compliance, and for each individual verticals, there are compliance we would actually take specifically. In general, this is a good way for you to make sure that you actually can subsidize some of the human testing into synthetic human testing to speed up your entire development and deployment process. So due to the interest of time, we just wanted to give you, for example, a little bit of a take of what it looked like. For example, we have an agent is doing returns. So say, hi, I want to return my order, right? So then the agent right now we're testing and say, I see you have 2 recent orders, A and B, so because we connect to your databases, right? So we can actually make a very concrete answer. And then synthetic users say, we see this human beings like orders, so we say, we will, when will order 1300 ship? I say, order blah, blah, blah is pending. And then based on this, what is the consistent or like a persona consistent thing to ask is, can you tell me when it might arrive in Seattle? And the agent that we're testing will return this, I'm sorry, but I don't have the exact shipping address, right? Shipping date. So for this, it would trigger one of the evaluator, because if you're saying sorry, something might be wrong, right? It's not the best user interaction that we would hope. So here it would trigger in terms of what the answer would be, and then we provide issues and suggestions for you to correct. And then if the synthetic user did not get a satisfied answer, what is the next more probable things that we would ask is, can you give me the customer service email? Still, we say, I'm sorry, but I can't provide the customer service email. Then this basically issue is like the agent doesn't have the customer service email information, which is more what we say domain knowledge missing. So for these like general errors, you can always index a potential way to resolve it in a more efficient way. So the testing and eval and improvement is always connected together. The testing is really to provide you the better coverage for your evaluation. And the evaluation is really helping you to find or debug the potential improvement that you can make, whether it's the tool that is getting bad access or it's missing certain information that is connected to a vector database or a relationship database. Okay, I'll stop from here. Happy to get connected if you're interested in knowing how this developer tool would work for your testing and evaluation process. Just contact me through my email. You can also find me on my homepage as well. Okay, thanks.